That's good timing for the little loop video to come to an end, as it's just turned 2 o'clock by my reckoning. So welcome everybody to this session. I'm going to be just starting a presentation in a second, and I'll be giving a very short introductory presentation before handing over to Mark Gavier to do the bulk of today's session, which is going to be a demonstration of the Aspen Discovery system. So I'll just start my presentation now. Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you could be aware that we are recording the session. We will be making this webinar available to customers and anyone afterwards on YouTube. And we are streaming live onto YouTube as well. So if you're on YouTube, do feel free to use the chat on the right-hand side in YouTube, and we'll answer any questions in there, as well as anyone who's in the Zoom session. Please use the chat in Zoom as well, and we'll answer questions and comments in there as well. Great, well, I'll crack on. Just the format of today. Can you see my slide, first of all?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you. So the format of today is primarily to demonstrate the Aspen Discovery system. And as I've said, Mark is going to be doing that. I'm just doing a short introduction. My name's Andrew Auld. I'm the Commercial Director here at PTFS Europe. I'm joined by other colleagues from PTFS Europe as well, and I will be putting up links to mine and Fiona's email addresses, because Fiona and I on the sales side. So if you have any inquiries about progressing further with Aspen, or having a more personalized demo or discussion about Aspen, then you can follow up with us after this session. So Aspen Discovery is a new tool to us at PTFS Europe. I'll be touching on a little bit of the history of the system in the slides and in the introduction. But as far as we're concerned, we've been looking at Aspen since, well, probably about 6 to 8 months in earnest. I think it was the summer of last year when we first started looking into supporting the system. And we've done a couple of short demo sessions, but this is going to be a more detailed session for you all to get you familiar with what this is all about. In essence, it's a discovery tool that integrates all of your e-content and provides access to your catalog content as well, all in one place. And the real goal of that is to make your content of all types more visible to users. So that's material from your catalog, from a discovery service, if you have one, from other enrichment sources, ebooks, audiobooks, bestseller lists, that kind of thing. But also it can index other external sources, websites, and other collection resources, such as, for example, photograph archives and that kind of thing. Because it's incredibly well integrated with Cohort, in particular, as a library management system, there is the My Account functionality. Quite a bit of the My Account functionality from Cohort pulls into Aspen, and there's the ability to check items out, to make reservations and holds, and so on. And there is enhanced My Account functionality as well, in terms of recommendations and star ratings and adding to lists and things like that. Mark is going to be covering in his demonstration. Another feature of Aspen is that it provides you with a content management system that means that, as well as discovering the resources, the e-resources, the catalog resources, you can also, within Aspen, create and hold and host web pages about your library, about further information, to provide things like privacy policies, that kind of things, and also it's quite rich in functionality. So for doing sort of short surveys, that kind of thing. And Mark will show you how that works and how that content management functionality really enables you to develop a one-stop shop really for your library users. And the whole system, the whole Aspen look and feel is configurable and customizable to your look and feel and your branding. I said I would mention a bit of the history. I know that we had someone from Bywater Solutions who registered for this. I'm not sure whether she's made it. Just I don't know what time of day it is in the States at the moment, but just to let you know the background of the system, it was developed as an open source project originally by a gentleman called Mark Noble in the USA. And Mark joined Bywater Solutions, who, for those of you who don't know, are a support company, very like PTFS Europe, who work in the US and support open source library systems and software over in the US. And they're now very much driving the Aspen project in the US, promoting Aspen to their Cohort customers and other users of other LMSs. And we started, as I said, supporting Aspen for our customers in 2021. And we've actually also started contributing to the community in doing in getting involved with our first customers here in the UK. And there is an open source community. It primarily at the moment operates in Slack and also using the GitHub repository area for Aspen. I mentioned that we're now supporting a customer in the UK, or customers in the UK. Our first customer to work on a project with Aspen Discovery is Newcastle City Council. And I'm just now going to play a short video from David Hepworth of Newcastle City Council talking about their decision to work with Aspen. I'm actually going to just stop the share and then start the share again to check I've got the sound sharing.
Hi, I'm David Hepworth. I'm Digital Development Manager with Newcastle City Council. I've got two main roles here. Firstly, to manage newcastle.gov.uk, our main website, and some other websites, and digital interaction with customers. But my main role is in libraries, managing some library services, particularly digital contact with customers. That's been really important since lockdown last year, when we've seen a huge demand increasing demand for ebooks and e-audio content and online services. And now we're starting to reopen our branches. People are starting to come back to use our public PCs and do library inquiries and council tax inquiries and things like paying blue badges, which they can all do using the digital facilities in our branches. We have been working with PTFS for some time, and we're really excited about partnering with them on Aspen Discovery. One of the things that we've struggled with is that buzzword of discoverability. I think customers and people generally are used to the sleek experience of using Amazon or Google, where they might enter a search term and they get a number of responses, or have you seen this, can you try that, other customers bought, that kind of feedback from the search engines. And I think Aspen will address that somewhat. Our current catalogue does suggest our e-content, but it requires some work behind that, and it's a bit well, it's not as sleek as Google or Amazon, I suppose. So we're looking forward to that. That kind of interactive, that bespoke interaction for the customer, where they'll get multiple responses. One of the other things we've been addressing with the current catalogue is WCAG, those accessibility standards. It doesn't quite meet that, and it's going to require some work to get to those standards. And again, we're hoping that Aspen will be addressing some of those things already as well. We're a bit nervous about this. We're the first UK library service to be trying Aspen Discovery, and we like to be early adopters in Newcastle, but we have done some testing before we made the commitment. So, for example, I joined some library services in the US online just to see what that customer interaction would be, and it's very, very good. So, as much as there is a risk, we have done some testing. We're testing our Aspen Discovery interface next week, and hopefully we'll be going live with it later in the year. So we're very excited to be working with PTFS on this, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much to David for recording that for us. And I know we have some of the PTFS Europe project team who are working on that project on the call. So I guess if there are any specific questions, we can either be able to answer them on this call, or get back to you with specific questions about how that implementation is going and what the steps are. I'll be high spotting what the approach is going to be to an Aspen implementation project after Mark's demonstration. But right now I'm going to hand over to Mark Gavier, who's our Director of Library Products, and Mark is going to take us through a full demonstration of the Aspen Discovery service.
All right, I will just share my screen. And hopefully what everyone will be able to see is the front page of Aspen Discovery, 4 blue boxes across the top and then some book covers underneath. Has everybody got that?
We have. Thank you, Mark.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to be going through as much of the system as possible today. It is a huge, huge system. There's an awful lot behind it, so there is more to learn. If you do want to know more about it, by all means, get in touch with us and we can show you deeper into the system, but it would literally take hours and hours to go through every option. So this is the home page for Aspen Discovery. This is what you would see as a user. Everything that you see on the screen is customizable. So we've got customizable themes. We can change the fonts, we can change colors, logos, icons, and that's all available for you in the admin interface to do yourself. Has some nice little features like these little banners across the top, which have previously been difficult to do. You can have that across every page. You can choose where you want it to show. If you want it to show on certain branches and not on others. Down at the bottom, we've got the usual things you would expect, like social links and things like that. Again, all under your control. And the full system, if I just change my view, the full system is mobile friendly. So everything that you see will work on a mobile interface. And we'll have a little bit of a demonstration of some of those later on. So the first thing that you see really when you come into Aspen, the thing that takes over the screen, are these book covers and these blue sections at the top. And these are custom resources. They're custom collections that are under the control of the library. And there are a number of different ways of creating them. So we've got new fiction selected by default here, clinical skills for nursing after that. New fiction is based on a search. So basically you can create dynamic collections. So anything that's come into the library, that will be listed. As long as it's a fiction book, it will be listed under fiction. The new non-fiction goes into the non-fiction section. The clinical skills for nursing, for instance, this is one we've created ourselves. So we can create and manually add things to lists as well. And the good thing about them is once you create these, they become resources in their own right. So if I was to search for clinical skills for nursing, you can see we're searching across the catalogue there and we get one result at the top. In the background, what it's doing is it's searching across other sources. So in a second, you'll see a little window pop up for Explore More. And we've got our clinical skills for nursing in there, along with it's on academic journals, magazines, news, and a few other things. And we'll go into that in a bit more detail later. But clicking through that will give us our clinical skills for nursing list. We can email the list, print it, resort it. We can generate citations in different formats as well. And if I just jump back and look at another one we have here, and we can look in one of these results. So if I look at Animal Farm there, one of the nice things it does, and it does this is it automatically, and you can do it manually yourself, is it groups records together. So you can see here, we've integrated an overdrive collection. So as part of the results, what it will do is it will pull out the things that we have on the shelf in the library, but it would also pull in other editions of work, other formats of work. So we've got an overdrive result in there as well. And we can, if we want to see more info, place a hold on things, we can do all that here. We can add it to a list. I've just got a notification that my laptop is running out of battery, so I'll just plug in. This is highly integrated with Core and other LMS systems. So it's asking me to log in now. I'm not actually logging into Aspen. I'm logging in to Core. That's where the authentication takes place, and that will give me access to the Aspen system. So what I'll do at this point is I will log in as a patron. Just pull up. That's the passwords. So we'll take our patron account there and sign in. And all of this information that you see here is coming live from Cohort. It's all pulled out of the library management system. So you can see it's pulling across fines, titles checked out, things like that. It will give you a summary of the fines there. Going into the first option, the checked out titles, again, this is all coming in from Core, so it's pulling across live information. And I've got the main library set as my home branch, so it will tell me what the opening hours are for today on that main branch and give me a list of everything that I've got checked out. And it will divide those into physical materials that are on the shelves in the library and also other collections as well. So as I said, we've got the Overdrive collection set up there. So if I've got anything checked out through Overdrive, that will appear as well. It will tell me how many times I've renewed this. It will give me ratings, whether the book's due, whether it's overdue. We can renew it here. Something that is unique to Aspen is we have this you might also like. So there's a little bit of machine learning going on in the background as well. So if I click on you might also like, it will recommend titles for me based on that particular title in the checked out list. Moving on a little bit further, we've got titles on hold. Again, this is all coming out from Core. Main library opening hours again, broken into physical materials and Overdrive collection, anything that's ready to be picked up, and pending holds as well. So we can sort those by various means. We can also cancel holds here, and we can freeze holds. So if for instance, I'm going away on holiday or I'm not going to be around, I can go in and freeze a hold, select a date when I am going to be available, and that will be that hold will be frozen. I don't lose my position in the queue, so I'll still, as you can see there, I'm number one in the queue. So when I unfreeze that hold, it will put me back to the top of the queue, and I'll be the next person to get that. But while it's frozen, anyone else who's in the queue will skip over me because the hold is frozen. I can change pickup locations, and we have this again, recommendations. While I'm waiting for this title, I can look at related titles as well. And again, that's all based on this machine learning that's going on in the background. We also have our reading history. There's been a lot of talk about privacy and things like that. So we do have, I'll just move back into the original translation. Yeah, so we've got banners in there telling people what that data is actually used for. And I have the ability to delete the whole of my reading history, stop recording it from this moment on, or I can delete things individually. And again, we've got options like you might also like based on particular titles, get more information. We can add reviews for a title and share things on social media as well. We also have materials requests. So we can submit requests through Aspen, and these will go through into Core, into the LMS that it's connected up to, and you can set limits on these as well. So if I was to submit a new materials request now. I can put all of the details in there, and I can also place a hold on the item when it comes available, all as part of the same process. Ratings, I can see titles I've rated, and these become very important in Aspen. This informs part of the machine learning behind the scenes, so it gets to know things that you like, things that you don't like, and will make recommendations based on that. And from that, it will pull out this list recommended for you. So based on your reading history, based on things that you've rated and you've liked, it will pull out this list. And for each one of these, you can place holds on items, get more information, review things, add it to personal list. You might have a want to read list. You can add that in there. If there's a particular title you've already read or you don't particularly want to read, you can remove that by clicking the don't recommend, and that will be removed from this recommended for you list. And when you have logged in, once you go to the home page, that will become the default. So the recommended for you will always show up on the home page whenever you're logged into the system. Now, if I just go back into my settings, we also have account settings here. So we've got a library card setting. It will show my library card, and there are various methods behind the scenes you can set up for this library barcode to be shown. So if we do move into mobile view, if you go to the library and you've forgotten your card, you can just pull this up on your phone, and then the library will be able to scan that, which is a really handy thing for patrons if they have forgotten their card. Various preferences that we've got. So we can change the language. It's a multilingual system. Change home library and pickup locations, things like that. As I said, it's tied into the LMS, so we can update our record in there as well, change date of birth, address, contact details. And we also have messaging settings. So for notices, we can say how far in advance we want some of those, get them delivered by SMS, email, only get them in digests, or turn off notifications for everything as well. If you change your mobile number and you're not getting notifications, you can also set that here. And linked accounts is very similar to Core. So if you have someone and you want to add their account and be able to see what they've got checked out, what they've got on hold, things like that, and manage the account, you can just log into that using a standard Core account here, and all of that information will display. We also have our search history here. So anything that I've searched for, I'll be able to go back to, and we can see the details of that search and save it permanently as well. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the language. So at the minute, the default is US English. That was what it was written in. If I switch into the British language, what you'll see is we get a lot of placeholders. And this is because we haven't fully translated it, and we've done that deliberately for a reason, so we can demonstrate this. So what I'll do is I'll log out of my patron account and come back into this as an admin. And if I do the same thing, I can go back into my searches. I'll just search for something there. So I've got something in the list. And go back into this list, and you can see all of the placeholders there again. If you have allocated permissions to a certain admin user, you get this start translation mode at the top. And if we enter translation mode, you'll start to see these little pink labels by the side of everything. If we click on one of those pink labels, what we can see is the original US translation. It knows that we're in English British. So what we can do there is we can update the labels. And once we've done that and we update the translation, it's automatically translated, and you can see that label turns to green, so you know that that's been translated into that language. And more or less everything across the system is translatable. So if there are any terms that you want to change, if you want to add a new language, all of that's available, and you can do that yourself using the translation mode. So if I exit that, again, I'll log out here. And we'll move on to searching. So One thing that's been really difficult to replicate with OPACs is OPACs are built around the idea of searching. So you need to know what you want to find before you search for it. And it's been difficult to replicate that browsing or serendipitous searching that you have when you're walking around a library or a bookshop, because that's a difficult thing to replicate digitally. But Aspen does a very good job of recreating that by intelligently linking the data together. And the user doesn't have to put a lot of effort into doing that. So one example of that is if I just type in some search terms there, you can see I get suggestions, but it knows that I'm searching across the keyword index. So as well as authors called Smith, I also get Smithsonian Magazine. If I was to do that search again, but I am looking for an author, and I type in Smith, it will only give me authors. So whichever index you're looking across, it intelligently knows that and will give you context sensitive matches across the index, and it makes it much easier for the users to find things. If I actually run keyword search on Smith and we'll look at some results. So these are results both from the catalogue and from our Overdrive collection. So it interleaves, and any system that's that allows searching remotely through an API, you can interleave and put those results within the main search results list. So we've got various facets. We've got ebooks, audiobooks, things that are in my home library, things that are available now, things that are available online. We've got different formats. We can look at things that have been added recently. We can look at user high ratings, low ratings from users. We can look at things in different languages, and we can also pull things out by the e-content collection that we've got set up as well. So if I click through into Overdrive there, you can see that these are all the things available in the Overdrive collection that maybe were further down the list. But if I was looking for something that's available electronically, then I can pull that out. And we can do some nice things like we can check things out directly from Overdrive. We can get previews from issues. So we can pull up full screen previews and just basically glide through the magazines. Again, any sort of additional content like that, where it's available, it will pull that across from the target system. Another thing that we have here, in the Explore More bar that we saw earlier, we have in the background, what it's done when I've done the main search is it's searched across all of the resources that we've got linked up to Aspen. So this first one, for instance, you can harvest websites. So if I click there, this will take me through to the PTFS Europe website, because what we've done is we've harvested the full content of that. And you can do that with your library websites, Flickr collections, any sort of third-party website. You'll be able to index and do a full text search across those websites. We've also got photographic archives in here. We've got it linked up to an Ebsco EDS system. So we have academic journals, magazines, news, archive results across the full photographic archive. So if we look at those, that will pull that down. So we've got all of our results from the photographic archive, so we can go straight in and look at those photos within there. I always use that one as an example because it's a great photo. It's also doing reciprocal links as well. So we've got results here from the catalogue. So we can pull results in from the catalogue. So regardless of which one you happen to be looking at a given time, it is pulling in results from all of the different systems that we've got linked up to this. Another nice thing that it will do is spelling correction, as you've seen on things like Google. So if I do spell something incorrectly, it will let me know that, and it will give me the results for the next best match. As well as that, down at the bottom, it will give me similar searches. So similar things that are in the index, it will pull out those, and clicking on one of these will run that search as well. If you don't get very many hits, another thing it will do, it will suggest an interlibrary loan. And again, this, if I click on that, that will take me out to the core catalogue and I can place an interlibrary loan. Or I can suggest a purchase, as we did earlier, and put in a purchase request and place a hold on a certain item as well if I haven't found it. Another system we've got things linked up to, you can click on an author's name And what that will do is it will pull out an author biography, and this is linked up to Wikipedia. And again, the library's in full control of that. So if you happen to have a member of staff called J.K. Rowling, who's published something, and it pulls in a Harry Potter related J.K. Rowling, then you can skip over that and pull it out and put the right author in there as well. You're in full control of that. As well as all these sort of starter title series that you would expect, we've also got advanced search. So we can start building those as well by selecting advanced search. And that will take us into a screen where we can start putting that advanced search together. So if I look for Potter as an author, add another search field, and look for Bunny. You can see it's given me hits on that. But what it's also done, which is quite clever, is it's done some fuzzy searching. So I searched for Bunny, but it's given me results for bunnies as well. So it interprets things, does keyword matching and things like that. So you will get, it does guarantee that you get at least some results unless you've searched for something that's really obscure. And again, we've got these explore more results being pulled in that have been searched in the background. So other systems, up until now, we've just been searching across the library catalogue. As I said, we've got an Ebsco EDS catalogue linked up against this, which we've listed as articles and databases. So we can search across the full EDS collection as well. It takes a little bit longer because it's searching across so many results, but it will pull all of those out. So you've got your facets as well, and the facets are relevant to the EDS results. So you can pull out peer-reviewed information, academic journals, things like that. So all of these facets are relating to the EDS search. And another thing we have is these research starters, which it's pulling from EDS. So for any students that are using this, there are some nice articles in there that it will pull out automatically. And again, we've got our explore more, so it's going into the photographic archive, it's going into the catalogue, it's going and pulling out individual results within that, which is the top hit, and also the full results as well. Another thing we can do, we said we had the library websites linked up, so I can search across websites that we've got harvested in here. And this is searching across the full text of the website that we've indexed. So anything within that website that matches on keyword, it'll bring those results back as well. So if you have meeting rooms that you want to book, if you have other services that you offer, they will come back as part of search results as well. And finally, we've looked at history and archives as well, our photographic archives, so we can see we're pulling out all of those photographic hits as well. But another nice thing you can do is you can search across everything at once and get combined results. So that will pull out everything from the catalogue. It will give me everything from Ebsco, our EDS. It will give me the photographic archive, and it will give me all the websites as well that we've got indexed in there. If I sign in now, I'll start to show you some of the admin side. As I said, there is a lot to it, so we'll just touch on a few things. So when I'm logged in, I get contextual results. So I search for Harry Potter and Secrets to get a few results up for that. I'll just search across the catalogue. You can see that we've got 3 different hits here for the same title. And this is one that hasn't automatically been picked up. So what we can do, because we're an admin, we can use this group with button. So here we've got some items on the shelf, but one of those hasn't been indexed with that particular title. So we can hit the group with button and select the primary work. So we can select that first hit. And if I group that together, it will remove this result and put it into this first result. So whenever someone hits that in a results list, every single copy of that is within the same record in the results list. So you're not getting a full page of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets when you've got 10 different copies of it, or if you've got a VHS, DVD, any sort of related items like that. And how that will look, if I just go back to our science fiction list, you can see we've got these audio, visual and ebook collections, and that's the way it looks. It pulls them out individually like that, and you can show information about each individual one, get more information about those. So if we go into a full view record, you can see basic information about it. You can also see this appears on that list, so it's in the science fiction list. So you've got the option of going back out and finding more related titles that way. We can place holds, add reviews, and rate here. You can see where different copies are and descriptions of the particular item. Again, part of the machine learning that's going on in the background, we can see here we've got more like this, very sort of Amazon-like, so we can pull out related titles, find out more information about those. Other additions and formats, we have subject headings that it's linked to, so if you have something like classic literature that you're looking at, you can click a link and find out more about that. We've got the citations that we pull out, so we've got different formats for this particular title. And one thing that I did want to touch on was the staff view. So from here, we can get things like the group and information, alternate titles, the book cover sources, and the full mark record, things like that. We can also reload covers, change the covers if we want to. If we have the full text of this as a PDF, we can upload documents against that. So you can upload full text documents against it. And another nice thing you can do is if you spot something in this record that isn't quite right, you can go back out into the core system and go straight to that, make some changes to the record. And when you go back into Aspen, you can force a reindex, so it will pick up any changes that you've just made. And also view it in the native OPAC. You can add additional information like series here as well, and just enrich those records within Aspen. And if you wanted to, you can also get to the raw source of the mark record as well. So that covers a little bit of the search and a little bit of the administration. As Andrew pointed out in his presentation at the beginning, it's not just a discovery system, it's also a content management system. So we have things like, we can put at library hours and location in here. So we can have contact information and the library hours. We can put notes against them for particular days. And we can also add these little drop-down menus. So I've added a PTFS Europe one here with the website. We can go off to the support portal and there's contact links in there as well. So you can put those in this little drop-down menu at the side. You can also add these links across the top and make your own web pages as well. So the privacy statement, this has all been built within Aspen. These web pages have been built within Aspen. And it's not limited to web pages as well. If you have lists of resources, you can also pull those out. So I've got a couple of things here. If you subscribe to certain collections, certain resources, you can do those, group them by category. So we can look through here and see the different ones. And the good thing about this is if we were to look for Oxford dictionaries and search for that in the catalogue, you will see that we get the normal results as you would expect, but it's also hit within Explore More. So if I go into that, it takes me directly into this list of subscribed resources that we've got that we've put into the online resources section. If I go back into our results list, go right down at the bottom, because I am logged in as an admin, I get additional options at the bottom as well. So one of those is create spotlight. So for this full search, what I can do is I can, by clicking create spotlight, I can create a rotating carousel of these resources and embed that in a web page and reuse that throughout the web pages I create within Aspen. Another option we have is add to browse, which is those little blue boxes on the home page, the browse categories. So we can give that a new category name and we can make it a subcategory of something else if we want to. So we could add that to the science fiction, for instance, that we were looking at earlier. So it's really easy. And this is the way that you make those dynamic collections. So if you want something a collection on the home page that's based on the results of a search, and you're continually adding to it over time, it will automatically pull those in. So it takes away some of the overhead of creating these categories. Just going back to the results at the top. Because I've created these pages, if I look at one of them, because I'm logged in as an administrator with the right privileges, for each of these web pages, I get an edit button, so I can edit these in place. So clicking that will take me into the web builder, and they're very simple to create. So basically what you're doing is giving the page a title, you're giving it a URL so you know where to find it. The teaser is, again, all of these web pages, they're seen as resources within Aspen, so they will come up in the explore more part of the search results if there are matching keywords in there. And you add the page contents here, and you've got this little editor. It uses Markdown, which is fairly simple to learn and write. There are guides, links to guides in here, but you can also use these handy buttons across the top to put in headings, bold text, italic text, images, links, things like that. And you've got this little preview button at the end so you can see what it looks like when you've pulled all of that together. And you can categorize things, you can make them appear in certain libraries but not others if you go into different branches, and you can select audiences for things. And they're all manageable within the audiences and category section in the administration of the web builder. So that's basic pages. We do have some more complex options within custom pages. So the privacy statement that we looked at earlier is an example of that. And what we can do with this is we can start manipulating the layout of the content on the screen. So we can add these rows and columns and start editing those individually. And if I just go into one of these, you get to alter the layout settings and things like that. You also get to change the source type. So at the minute we've got text and images, which is the same as that previous page, and you can add the content in this contents panel at the bottom. But we can also embed other pages. We can put menus in there. The collection spotlight that I mentioned earlier, which is the rotating carousel from a list of search results, can be embedded in the page. We've got forms that we can put in there, images, and we can embed videos as well. So these forms that we can embed, we can also create these here in the custom forms section. If we were to add a new one, we give it a title and a URL. We can require a login for this as well. So anyone wanting to submit something using this form would be required to log in with their core username and password to get into this. So you can put in your introductory text and then start to put your form together. So we've got text fields, text areas, checkboxes, options to select within a list, dates, URLs, email addresses, things like that. We can send the results by email to one or more email addresses, and we can specify a message here that will be given to the user when they've submitted the form. Other things we've got in here, we've got the web resources that we looked at earlier that we had Oxford English dictionaries in and PubMed. So again, they're very easy to put in. We can open things in a new tab rather than lose the catalog, specify logos, things like that. We can feature them so they're pulled out from the categorized lists and they're shown at the top of the lists, and we can specify whether you require it's in library use only or requires a library card, and it will put a little banner on there as well letting the user know. And we can put in various things. There are images that we can upload. If we were to upload one of these, when you upload the image, it will generate different sizes of the image as well. So if you need thumbnails for things, large size images, when someone clicks on one of the thumbnails, they're all generated automatically. And if you have any PDF documents that you want to embed in pages as well, or link to as a download, any forms that you have that may want to be printed off, you can add those there as well. So that's a brief look at the administration section. If I go into all the options in the administration section, this is what you see. And these are all modules within the system, and each one of these contains different functionality and has submenus. And as you can see, there's an awful lot of things in here to go through, and a lot of things you can do with Aspen. And these are just the modules that we've got enabled. So if I go into the modules that are available, you can see there are many of those as well. And the majority of these we don't have switched on at the moment. So there's an awful lot of things in there that we haven't touched on today. But if anybody does want to know more about this, we can revisit this and do a more in-depth demonstration of some of the options that are in there. One other thing, just to quickly show you before we go off, we do have system reports as well. So if we want to look at usage, any errors, we want to check the performance of Aspen, things like that, we've got these usage statistics as well. So if you have any resources that you're trialing, you can get results, see how many people have been using those. You can look at how many people have looked at web pages, see whether the information that you're putting in there is being used. You can get reports across those little the little blue boxes on the home page, see how many times they've come up in search results, how many people are finding them useful, that sort of thing. And one final thing that I'll just show is if you do have one of those resources that you were trialing, you can add these things which are called placards. So I've added one here for BBC Sounds, and you can link these against certain keywords. And if you have a trial of a resource that lasts for a month, you can put the start date and the end date of that trial in there, and it will show between those two dates, and you'll get a report on how often that's being used as well. So it gives you some information about how the resource is being used and whether you want to subscribe to it. It gives you a little bit more empirical evidence on that. So you can make an informed decision about whether you want to subscribe to that resource rather than just hoping that people will find it useful. So that was a brief run through of Aspen. As I said, there is a lot more beneath the hood. There's a lot more to show. So if anybody does want to find out more, please feel free to get in touch with us and we can take you through the full system. Was someone about to jump in with a question there?
I was about to jump in, Mark, it's me. I was just going to jump in and say that we have had quite a few questions in the chat channel, and it would be good to cover some of that ground with you. We've done some brief answers. So we've got a question about authentication and how the authentication works in Aspen in conjunction with Shibboleth or SAML.
Yeah, so basically, your catalog, however that is configured, Aspen is using your catalog as the authentication method. So logging into Aspen is the same as logging into your catalog. So if you've got individual usernames and passwords set up within Core, it will look in the database and look against those usernames and passwords. If you've got Shibboleth set up, it will use Core and authenticate through Core in exactly the same way.
Thanks. We had a question around, and it was sort of just before you went on to talk about some of the ratings and stars and recommendations. But I'll just read the question out just in case you want to give a fuller answer. So does the you might like, or you might also like, use local loans data to generate recommendations, or is it based on an external data source, or is it based on subject similarity?
It isn't based on external resources. It's based on information within Aspen. So it will look at, I mean, obviously there are complicated algorithms behind this in the background, but if as a user you go in and you start liking some, if you've got things within your loan history and you've rated things highly, it will group those together and it will start basing the recommendations on those. If there are things that you remove from the recommendation list, if you don't rate them very high, you give them 1 star, then it will remove those. So it's a little bit of a balancing act, but a lot of it does work around the ratings. They're given a higher weight, and so if you rate something highly, then that will bump those similar resources up the list.
Great. Thank you. We had a question about accessibility and how close to WCAG accessibility standards it is.
I did run this through an accessibility checker and it did fail on some points, but the things it was failing on were the out of the box contrast ratios. So this is, it's things like, is a piece of text readable in a certain color on a certain background? So you can see if you look at, say the BBC Sounds audiobook collection in there, we've got a dark blue on a light blue background. So that's fairly good. That's got good contrast. Those guidelines work on a ratio of 4.5 to 1. So as long as that contrast is above 4.5 to 1, then it will pass. But there are some things within the system when it's gone through all of the colors and all of the backgrounds and things like that. I know one thing that did fail was this banner at the top because of the color that I've set it to, the background color. But all of that is within your control. So if you were to run that through an accessibility checker, you could, and you find out that that isn't high enough of a contrast ratio, you can make the text darker and the background lighter, and you can do that in a few clicks and then run it back through the accessibility checker to make sure that it's passed the test.
Great. I think you showed an example of search results from an archive collection. Did you?
Yes, the photographic archive.
We also had a question about whether or not there was a list somewhere of archive type resources that we can currently configure Aspen to connect to. I've provided a link to the integrations page that Bywater have on their website in terms of integrations, but in terms of collections connections, Mark, is there anything you can add to that?
In terms of archives, it's basically anything that's OAI compliant. So if you have archives like DSpace or ePrints or anything like that, that particular photographic archive that I used is OAI compliant. So that's why it's pulling those resources across. It's able to ingest the records using OAI and add them to the index.
We had a question about how the system collates and ranks search results. This was when you were looking at that bento box style display of results, search results from all of the sources. Other controls around how it sorts those and prioritizes the results.
If I do a search across all of those combined resources again, so this is giving me sort of library catalog, then Ebsco, then the photographs, then the website. That's basically drag and drop. So if I wanted the photographic archive to go to the top, I would go into the admin section and just drag that to the top and click the save button, and that will reorder it. As far as the hits within this list, that is based on the algorithms in Solar, which is the search engine. So you can see that it's pulling out these ones because it's got the word support in the title, so it'll rank that. If for instance you had an article in there, if you had two articles in there, sorry, and one had support in the title and one had support in the abstract, the one that's in the title will obviously come above the one that's where there's a keyword hit in the abstract. But it's Solar is an industry standard search engine. It's used across an awful lot of systems right across the internet. It's a very robust system. All the algorithms that are in there are set by Solar. You can't actually go in and change algorithms, especially for things like Ebsco Discovery, because what you're doing there is you're searching a remote system and it's sending you the results back, so it will display them in the order that Ebsco defines.
Okay, can we moderate reviews? Andrew Farthing asks.
I've had this question before, and there are two ways of adding reviews. If I go back into Animal Farm, as where are we? Going back into the home page, science fiction, Animal Farm. If we get more information on that. So you can see here we've got reviews from Goodreads. So you can pull in external reviews. These are coming from a third-party system. Obviously, if it's coming from a third-party system, that's where the moderation would take place. If I go into one of these titles, and I add a review here, the text that's in that review, at the moment, I am not able to moderate it. I can delete it, but I can't change anything that's in there. There is a thing in Aspen, which is under the library control, which is called a bad words list. And this would be an amazing cathartic job for someone to come up with a list of bad words. So it will basically star them out. You're not allowed to use anything that's in the bad words list. So yeah, it's a great job for somebody to go through and make a list of bad words, and those ones will be sort of excised from the review. So as far as a workflow where someone would submit something and then that goes into a queue for moderation, that's not possible at the moment, but you can sort of preempt that by using the bad words list.
I've got a question just popped in about frozen screens. So Mark, can you just, no, my screen's not frozen at the moment, Adam, so that may be just you. And we had a question about whether Aspen shows real-time information about records in Cohort. So this is holds information and so on.
There's a sort of two-level system in the integration. So for something like holds, that is real-time. So if for instance, if I go back to I'll do my advanced search again. So we can see here the tail of Flopsy Bunnies is checked out. So if I came into the library now and returned that, if I was to refresh this page, it would pull that live information across and it would show that as available. Catalog records, on the other hand, are slightly different. You are in control of how often Aspen will look to Core to pull out new records. So you could do that every 5 minutes, you could do it once a day overnight, you could do it however often you want. But any sort of information around holds, around finds, any sort of user information, part of the patron record, and any detail about individual items, that all comes across from Core in real time.
Thank you. Kathleen asked about whether we could have a good example of a library website, sorry, a library that uses Aspen and also uses it extensively for their website on the CMS side. Unless you can particularly put your finger on an example, I'll contact Bywater and get an example from them to link people.
I know that a lot of libraries have done it, but I don't have an example off the top of my head.
No problem. So Kathleen and everyone, I will send out, well, I'll attach to this this video some links that will be useful for that. And just scrolling down again. We had a question over in YouTube about whether or not we feel that the Aspen Discovery complements Ebsco Discovery Service or whether it replaces Ebsco Discovery Service for a library. My suggestion was it was complementary, but Mark, I'm happy for you to jump in and say more.
I think it would be complementary in as much as if you go to EDS and search, then yes, you can search across the EDS database and you can upload your holdings into it, but that's just two resources. With this, it's a bit more flexible because you're basically adding all of your resources. Any sort of subscription material or any lists that you make or things like that, they also become resources in their own right. And whenever you perform a search, it doesn't really matter what you're searching. It's always running these additional searches in the background and putting those into this explore more So there's always something additional in there. If you don't find anything, you've also got the links out to interlibrary loans and things like that. So I think there is a little bit more in Aspen. It's less, you're less likely in Aspen to come up with no results. And also because you've got this recommendation engine behind it, you can go into a particular title and you can see related titles, or if you place a hold on something, it can recommend something that may fill the gap while you're waiting for that hold to be fulfilled. And you're also getting those personal recommendations as well based on things that you've rated. So I think there is more there. But
I'm right in saying that in order to access the resources from EDS, irrespective of whether you use Aspen as a front-end discovery for your users, you have to have an EDS subscription in order.
You do have to have an EDS subscription, yes.
Yeah. Okay, and another question from Patricia on YouTube. For websites with limited indexing on titles and headings, can Aspen build an entirely new index on a website from scratch, or does it depend on the existence of an existing index?
Could you repeat that question?
I can, yeah. So for websites with limited indexing on titles or headings, can Aspen build an entirely new index on a website from scratch, or does it depend on the existence of an existing index?
So I think what the question is within a web page, you have sort of metadata and things like that. You have certain tags within a web page, and search engines will index those. What Aspen is actually doing if you add a website to Aspen, it's indexing the full text of that website. So if you search for a certain series of words, if those words exist within the full text of that page, it will bring it back as a hit. It doesn't really matter whether there's any metadata in the header tags of pages. I hope that answers the question. I hope I haven't misunderstood the question there.
So Patricia, if you're still around and that's answered, if you just let us know, or if you want us to clarify a bit further, please just pop a bit more in the chat. Thank you. Question from Dawn. We're looking for a system that allows people to access our resources in one place, particularly our online journals. I know you briefly mentioned Ebsco journals, but is it just a case of clicking through to access our subscriptions, or is it a bit more difficult as the journals are coming from third-party suppliers?
If I search across EDS here, so say for instance I wanted this result here that's coming from a journal. What that will do is it will take me out to Ebsco and it will ask me to log in. So the discovery of it is all handled by Aspen. The actually getting to the resource is all happening through EDS. It's that service is still provided by Ebsco.
Okay. If someone was looking at books on mental health issues, for example, could Aspen link to local resources and suggest various local contacts to help with the particular issue they're looking at?
Using the group with function, if I just look, I'm not sure if there's anything in the catalog. But, searching Ebsco there, I just search the catalog. Yeah, so if you wanted to link resources into this, I suppose one way of doing that is you could have on the home page a list, one of those curated lists with all of those resources within it. You will also get in the Explore More. You can see there I've got some catalogue result coming through. Because I've mentioned mental health, it's pulled out the Tavistock and Portman NHS Trust from the PTFS website. So anything where there are keyword matches or term matches, it will try and link those together in the Explore More section. If you wanted to be more controlled over that, what you could do is start grouping these things together. And sort of manually put those collections together. And the more, because there's these processes going on behind the scenes, the more you link things together, the more metadata is generated and the more links it creates. So for instance, something which you would not really have any control over is if someone looked for those resources, found a lot of them helpful and started rating them, or added them to lists, and there was more and more usage of them, that would generate more metadata, and it would enable the system to link those things together automatically.
Great, thank you. We've got a little bit more around the integration with Ebsco Discovery Service. A suggestion from someone on YouTube that one could just potentially subscribe to the Ebsco's databases rather than the Discovery Service, and that's a similar suggestion, I think, from Henry and the chat in Zoom as well. We can look into how the options around integrating with Ebsco Resources in a bit more detail, unless, Mark, you want to expand a bit more on what you've already said.
No, I think that is probably a question for Ebsco, that one.
Yeah, we need to explore that, and probably Bywater have answered that question with their partner libraries as well. So we'll get some more information on that and out to those that are interested specifically in that area. And this might be something we need to refer back as well. Can you use link resolver to include waif-less links in results from Ebsco, etc.?
If you were doing it from Ebsco, because Ebsco are controlling the resources, you would need those waif-less links to be within the Ebsco front end. So when you actually go into articles and things like that, and you go into the record within EDS, that's where you would put it rather than have those links. You can't set up a link resolver with Aspen.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark. I think I've run through all of the questions we've had in the chat. If anyone feels I've missed out their question, well, I apologize first off, that's inadvertent, but if they want to just shout up with their question just now, or if anyone has any more questions or wants Mark to show anything else in the system, we've got a few minutes more. I've got another couple of slides to show you, but I'm happy for there to be more questions from anyone.
While we're waiting just to see if any questions come through, one thing it is probably worth mentioning is I've showed EDS, I've showed websites and Overdrive and things like that. There are other integrations like RB Digital, Cloud Library, Hoopla. I think Content Cafe is one of them. It works with Syndetics and Novelist and various different systems. We do have a full list of those. It's not just EDS and Overdrive that it works with. They just happen to be the ones that we've set up.
I've just had Bywater Solutions coming back in the chat in YouTube. So that this was in relation to one of the questions that we've had for one of the previous questions. We have a library that when you use the search term help, and you can set any keyword like mental health was the question relating to this, then they have a placard that pops up to display a local suicide helpline. So that's one way that libraries use placards, which is the thing that Mark showed you where the BBC Sounds placard came up. So thank you, Bywater, for adding that. How big is the development community and how frequently is Aspen updated and released?
There's a new release of Aspen every month. So it's different to Core because there are more releases, but they're smaller releases. So yeah, all of Bywater's customers, as they're updating them, they all get updated every month. It isn't the same sort of process as Core, so you wouldn't go through a full upgrade process. It's incremental upgrades, so they're much easier to manage. But yeah, it's updated very regularly.
Great, thank you.
Andrew, there was an earlier question related to that as well, and it was about the documentation available for Aspen, especially in connection with the admin settings.
There's a YouTube channel which has a lot of information on, especially on the admin side of things. There are a lot of videos and contain a lot of examples on how to set things up and go through each of the settings, and it explains them all in detail. It's a really, really good resource.
And one of the things that PTFS Europe will be doing, I'm sort of speaking for my colleagues here, but we produce the fortnightly What's on Our Mind videos. So as we start to work with more with Aspen and with more libraries with Aspen, then I'm sure Aspen will feature in that set. And I have on the YouTube channel, I do have the PTFS Europe YouTube channel, I do have a topic for Aspen, what's it called, a list. I've forgotten what they're called in YouTube now. Playlist. Thank you very much, Mark. A playlist specifically around the Aspen topic. So as we add content, video content, then it will be housed there. And then I'm sure the support team, the projects team, will be producing documentation in relation to the implementation projects as well as they go through those. Is the official code repository GitHub MD Noble 73 Aspen Discovery? I think yes is the answer, because I found that the other day.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the one. Henry? Okay, if we're just drying up on questions, we don't have to completely dry up. I've just got a couple more slides that I'm going to show. So I'm just going to grab the screen share off Mark. Thank you very much, Mark, on behalf of everyone, for taking us through the system. I'm just going to literally show a couple more slides. One in relation to implementation. So really just to let you know that the way we are treating implementation projects around Aspen is very much in line with our processes to implement any product that we work with at PTFS Europe. So there'll be a kickoff meeting and configuration session. And in particular, it's important that we understand, as was sort of mentioned earlier, what connections you want us to set up so that we can get that set up from the outset, and carry out the installation and configuration of your system, and then do your training. And then obviously there's the ongoing hosting and support. So our usual approach in relation to hosting with our UK hosting providers, as those of you who are customers will know, we're ISO 27001 accredited in relation to our infrastructure and as a company, the way we operate procedurally, and that's a very important assurance for you in terms of how we handle data and security of your data and GDPR matters and so on. And then our ongoing support for Aspen will operate in the same way as the support of any of our products. So a business hours, telephone and email support, and 24 access to the support portal, as well as our usual automated server monitoring that we undertake. And it's true to say that we've already done a little bit of development. I'm using the royal we here, Mark. We've already done a little bit of development on Aspen, and I certainly think we'll be intending on getting our hands a bit dirty with Aspen when we need to. So that's something we'll be looking at going forward as well, and contributing actively to the community. And then finally, just to let you know that Fiona and I are very happy to hear from you if you're interested in discussing how you can use Aspen Discovery to open up your resources to your library users. So there are our email addresses, and I'll make sure I attach these slides to an email that I'm going to send out to the customer base and to the attendees of this webinar after the event. So have there been any more questions while I've been burbling on?
There has been a couple.
Okay.
First one is, how much does it cost? And the second one is, does the integration with Aspen work seamlessly after Cohort upgrades, or is that something that needs fine-tuning after the upgrade?
Mark, do you want to address the second question first?
Yeah, it's as new versions of Core come out, obviously Aspen is developed against those. The upgrade rate of Aspen is much faster than Core. So you're always ahead of the game there, and it's always tested against the current versions, the current release versions of Core. So it's not to say that there may not be a problem. You can never say that 100% about something, but it's something we're very much on top of, and Bywater solutions are very much on top of as well.
Okay, and in terms of cost, we haven't got a straightforward how much is the price of milk type answer to that question. How much is a pint of milk, I should say, answer to that question, because it does depend on the configuration, on the scope of the implementation project, and the size and number of libraries that would be being involved. So for example, if you wanted multiple front ends configured, how much of the configuration you wanted to do as opposed to you wanted us to do. So there are factors like that. And then in terms of the ongoing support and hosting, again, it will partly depend on the scale of the organization, and also you know, we can look at your existing commitment to us and how this marries in with your, if you're an existing customer, your existing service provision, and look at a quote in relation to that. So Fiona and I would be very happy to talk to people about where the pricing sits for them, and having had a discussion in a bit more detail about what sort of configuration options you were thinking would be appropriate.
Absolutely.
Just a little bit to add about the upgrades as well. It's probably worth mentioning that all of the integration between Aspen and Core happens through various APIs that Core provides. So if those APIs don't change, but a lot of the other things in Core change, then there wouldn't be any knock-on effect. It's just the APIs within Core that would have any knock-on effect with Aspen. So the majority of the work that happens on Core wouldn't have an effect anywhere.
Does it work with discovery services other than Ebsco?
Yes. I'm not sure what the list is off the top of my head. It's something we'd need to get back to you on. The way that Aspen has been written, the way that it works behind the scenes, is there's an architecture where you can plug in different systems. So if there's a particular system you have in mind, it's entirely likely that that could be developed, but obviously there's development work involved in that.
Okay, anything else on YouTube, Fiona?
Nope, nothing.
Great. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap things up at that point, unless there's something that somebody's sitting on their hand waiting to jump in and say. So then in that case, I'd just like to thank Mark in particular very much for putting together such a comprehensive demonstration. Thank you everyone who's attended for coming along this afternoon. We hope you found it useful and interesting. We're here to talk to further and give you more detailed information as you need it. And I will be sending a link out to the video of this session to those who've attended and also to the customer base as a whole later this week. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.